And with that, let's just get right into it, Lee. Here's the heat map. One of the headlines I read this morning was simply that Chinese firms were reporting multiple shipments of U.S. soybeans on Monday, which kind of contradicted some earlier headlines. So it's nice to see some actual follow through as opposed to just rhetoric and conversation.
Indeed, and you can see that gave a little bit of a bid under the soybean market there.
Sure,
For
always
sure.
take that. Yeah.
All righty. Yeah, a couple of shipments I guess they took. So hopefully that will continue. In other news overseas, German Chancellor Merkel is reportedly talking to lawmakers about yet another stimulus package, somewhere between 50 to 100 billion euros. And the next thing I'm going to say, Kevin, just shows you why the market is going up. French finance mystery lowered their GDP forecast down to 11% from they said it's going to drop 11% versus the previous estimates of 8%. So that is bad news. The market takes it as this is great because it'll lead to even more stimulus. So the market has blinders on with any negative news. It's taking everything negative and making it positive for the pain trade that's going on here.
All right.
That just shows you that's crazy.
Which is great while it's going, of course, until they, whoever they really are, decide
right.
that narrative is no longer valid or we've gone too far, and then everything will, go the other way, of course.
That's right. Sticking overseas right now, the Bank of England's monthly data for April showed a massive decline in consumer credit outstanding. Obviously, this was due to the fact that UK consumers weren't able to spend very much in April because of the lockdown. But here again is what the market is saying about it. Well, it's good because that means that they weren't taking on any more debt to maintain spending. And even in the US, high frequency data shows the balances on credit cards are rapidly going down, which shows that people are not borrowing, maybe they're saving. So that was kind of interesting as well. The picture with all that data is that people are getting more cash, which of course will fuel not spending now, but the market narrative as well. They're getting more cash, less debt. They'll spend more later, so the market should go up. Again, there's blinders on here kind of to a certain extent. I just thought I would, we haven't talked about the virus for a while. I just thought I saw some interesting data overnight. I thought I would share this too. So global cases are slowing, and the worst places in Europe are going to zero cases now, which is really good. The hotspots like Italy and Spain. Italy and Germany have recorded low and stable cases. In the United States, while there are some states that are stable and some that are going down, unfortunately, there's quite a few states where we're still going up, which means that the U.S. does not seem to be following the same path as countries that have actually got this thing under control. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy there. If you want to know what states cases are still rising and things are not slowing down, it's Mississippi, North Carolina, Alabama, out here in California, Utah, Arizona, South Carolina, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Texas. So it's just a little bit different than in Europe. Also, the other thing about the virus that people are talking about, of course, is that will the protests that are going on now lead to another outbreak in the summer? Because if you've seen the pictures, they're really close to each other. Most people aren't wearing masks, so there you go. All right, that's really all I have. The only domestic news today will be vehicle sales. I think they're probably coming out now, but I don't think the market will pay much attention to them. So we can go on to stocks in the news if you want.
Sure, let's go ahead and do that, Lee. I was checking headlines. It seems pretty bereft at this moment, so let's go ahead and just dive right into it. What do you got?
Yeah, there's not a lot today. I mean, it's kind of Let's look at Activision, ATVI.
Okay.
So they said they're going to delay the release of the new Call of Duty games due to the
Hmm.
protests that are going on. Dick's Sporting Goods, DKS, that's a kind of a popular stock.
Hmm.
Yeah, so moving a little bit. And the reason, of course, is they missed quite badly on earnings. This just shows you what's going on with the market. So they missed by 38 cents. They were looking for a loss of 83 cents. They came in with a loss of $1.21. They withdrew their guidance, but they had stronger revenues. But this again speaks to the narrative we talked about with the credit card situation, that I think people are thinking that this cash is building up. Eventually, people are going to spend, so they're trying to get ahead of it. I think that's what's going on there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Let's take a look at Visa. Same thing here. They said that their total U.S. payments in May were down 5% year over year. Globally, uh, down 12%. The stock is up because people think it can't get any worse. Really, I mean, that's
Yeah.
what, that's what's going on. It is the pain trade big time at some point. So you just got to tighten your stops, because at some point the momentum is going to wane.
Mhm.
I've enjoyed this momentum all the way up, and I'm not. You just got to honor your stops. At some point, it will stop, but don't fight the tape and don't fight the Fed.
Yeah, I got to agree, Lee. I'll just throw in my 2 cents real quickly and suggest that, or make a note that I've been trying to be a smart seller and take some off when meeting resistance, or maybe sell a call on a position when meeting some resistance. And what I found is that's not working in my favor. It's causing me to lose positions or to exit a position earlier than I should have. And I think that what you said, the idea of tightening up your stops, using a tighter moving average or something along those lines, is perhaps a better approach here. So one thing is clear: you can't fight it. You don't want to go the other direction in the midst of a short-term uptrend, trying to guess when it will cease. That's a fool's errand, I think, is what we're learning here.
Yeah, for sure. Let's look at Apple.
Okay. Hmm.
So right at
Some
resistance,
resistance.
yeah, see if this one can break out. To your point about stocks at resistance. Anyway, they said that they might lower their prices on iPhones for the Chinese shopping holiday that's coming up. So maybe they're going to go for more volume and a little less profit. But stock certainly not doing badly with that news for sure. Let's take a look at Tractor Supply.
Just doing what it does.
Yeah, interestingly, it didn't really go down because Goldman Sachs actually downgraded it from a buy to a neutral today.
Really.
Yeah,
Well, it's had a heck of a run here. Obviously, 65 to 120. That's a pretty impressive move. I'm guessing that this is a little more on the stay at home, grow at home, type approach. I know that they service the so-called ranchers or homesteaders, perhaps. They have offer a lot of good stuff for those individuals who have to maintain, cattle or livestock or what have you. So yeah, I'm wondering if that's what this is tied to, because this thing has done exceptionally well.
yeah. All right, another downgrade. Lululemon, LULU.
Interesting. On to downgrade.
Yeah, that was downgraded at Wells Fargo from overweight to market weight. Again, it's had a real run too.
Yeah, it's done all right. Only 100+% since the bottom there in March. I don't know about you, Lee, but I haven't left my yoga pants. So, I mean, I'm basically in yoga pants all day. Kidding,
Yeah, for
to a certain
sure.
extent. To a certain extent.
All
Anyway.
right, uh, let's take a look at Microsoft. So maybe consolidating a little bit in a triangle there after the pretty good run up. The news on them though, they Wells Fargo reiterated their outperform rating on this one today. And another one that's been moving is yeah, so yeah, you can do a little analysis
I
on
was
that one.
just going to ask you about this actually. I wanted your opinion because I saw the same triangle you mentioned. Of course, this is pretty clear, right? But what
Mhm.
about the longer term? Is this possibly a cup and a handle, or is this handle way too long?
Um,
Because you've got, from this peak all the way down, your handle's below the breakout or below the prior peak, right? So
it
it
would
kind of
depend,
resembles that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, put up the actual volume bars or unbalanced volume. A handle theoretically should have lower volume in it. Let's just see if that's true.
So
No, it
OBV
was
is going sideways there.
sideways. Yeah.
Looks like it's been picking. Well, that's interesting because it looks like it's been picking up as it's been confirming support.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit interesting that if we zoomed into this, I guess, Lee, the takeaway that I have is, that this is actually done pretty all right here. I don't know. I thought it could be, but I thought also it looked a little long for an actual handle at this point.
Yeah. Just probably a little. They're usually about 5 days, 5 to
Yeah,
7 days.
instead of this is more like 3 weeks, and that's a little on the lengthy side. So
Yeah. But regardless of what you call it, obviously a break through the upper trend line.
sure.
Actually, if you were going to consider it a high handle up there, it'd be the breakout of that, yeah, pivot right there. Those two, no, over more.
These right
Yeah,
there.
there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that would be the place to add exposure if it could break out there. At least many traders would say that. All right, let's look at PayPal. That's been moving.
Yeah, it has. Oh, PayPal, Visa, and Mastercard all having some nice bounce backs.
Yeah, so looks like is that an all-time high on that?
I think it is, and that looks interesting. Look at that OBV way up there as well. Check this out on a weekly real quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so they were reiterated outperform at UBS this morning. Nice chart. Looks like the 20-day moving average. They bought it
Sure
right up
does.
there. That's the orange line on the chart, everybody. Yeah, I mean, unbalanced volume it's not screamingly positive, but it's not negative either. It's just kind of eh.
Yeah, but maintaining the level up there for sure. And price is moving to new highs. Can't really argue with that. That's had a
Yeah.
nice run too. Goodness, there's a lot of these. Okay. What
Another
else you
one
got?
that has been very popular these days, Shopify.
Oops.
So they had a little retreat to the 20-day moving average. It seems like it's setting up on there.
Yeah, that's a real interesting how it's kind of gotten pinned between the 10 and the 20.
Yeah, yeah. So
But you've got higher lows and you're running right into the 10 there around, what is that, about 770?
yeah,
It looks like I've been checking this one out here. Let's see if I've got some lines. Yeah, there's the level right here, I think, Lee.
yep.
About 770. Yeah, that's where it rallied on the open today, too.
Yeah, so that's their
Pretty
key
interesting.
level in the short term for
Yep.
another pop higher if it can take that out. Anyway, they were reiterated outperform at KeyBank today.
Okay.
Let's put up Restoration on Hardware. A lot of people trade that one.
RHO, Lee.
RH, yeah.
RH. Well, there's an OBV that's chasing the price.
Yeah. Okay, so they reiterated their plans. They say they're going for 20% operating margins, and because of that, they were upgraded to G Haskett from a sell to a hold. I wouldn't want to have been if they were a sell. I don't know how much you'd trust that analyst,
No
but
kidding. Wow, another monster move, Lee. That is 80 to 230.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hey, what? All right. What else you got? This one hadn't been on my list. How is Restoration Hardware not on my list, Lee, when it was at 80 in March and 230 today? All right.
All right, that's really all I got. Somebody wants to see the breakout in DBC. We'd been talking about those on charting the markets, the stock commodity ratio being well out of whack, just like we talked about the gold and silver ratio being well out of whack. We suggested maybe doing a little silver, which has been working out. Let's see. Well, it is a breakout. I don't know how much oomph there is. Let's take a look at the intraday volume.
I do not care for the on balance volume down here, Lee.
No.
It's just not really setting itself up. Intraday volume right here, everybody, the blue and the orange volume's down 50% versus the 5-day average. So, yesterday when it started to break and started to trend, it was showing good volume for the day. Hence that blue line nicely above the orange. Same for the day before when it had a nice strong close there. But today, not so much. So this just could be a little bit of a short run breather, I guess, as it's breaking out. But
yeah, maybe when it gets on people's radar, the volume will come in. But again, price is the most important thing. So it is making a higher high.
Hey, Lee, I had one more, by the way, stock in the news, and it's one we've talked about a little bit of late too. It's Slack Technologies was upgraded today actually by Cohen. They were initiated with coverage by Cohen. Outperform rating, they put a $45 price target on it, and it continued to kind of do what it's been doing. Taking a look at its on balance volume as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see.
No doubt. And then did we talk about Lowe's? We talked about Lowe's last week, but I think they were upgraded.
Yeah, they were upgraded a Haskett from neutral to buy.
Hold, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's just check that real quick. And so they're okay. So clearly, yeah, Lowe's and Home Depot continuing to do what they've been doing, both trading in there for ranges, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And there's Home Depot just breaking as well. So getting a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
Lowe's
Yeah,
probably.
that's, yep.
But
don't fight the tape.
Yeah,
don't fight
again.
the Fed.
And I'll say this, in my part of town out here in Colorado, the one thing that's taking off is building. I mean, they are building like mad in my area here. So there's a lot of work going on. So it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of much in the way of a hiccup, at least in production this way. So anyway, all right, Lee, should we do some broad market stuff here?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so let's start us off with the S&P. Looks like we've got a little continuation move here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom us in. Let's bring in the RSI. Hide that on balance volume. So here we are, everybody. Full week above the 200. We've tested and held the 200. 10-day upsloping through the 200. RSI and bull market behavior moving into the 70 range. What else are you going to say? Lee, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, the last pullback didn't even bring it. It brought us to around 50, which is also bull market behavior.
Yeah, it's all looking really sound here, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. You got to go with the flow, whether you believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It is the pain trade. People just sit on the sidelines. It keeps going up,
denying it while they sit in cash.
Yeah, I mean, the wall of worry is pretty steep. Obviously, you got still the virus, you've got the national unrest, and the market just doesn't care.
It's interesting that the unrest nationally has had next to no impact on the market.
Yeah, we covered that on charting the markets actually yesterday. We looked at how the market behaved in the hot summer of 1967, which is kind of analogous to the protests we're seeing now. We also talked about how the market did in Rodney King in 1992, And today on Charting the Markets, we'll just talk a little bit about 50 years ago, what happened to the market with the Kent State shootings, where the National Guard shot people. And I mean, there's of course that worry out there now. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Man. All right.
50 years ago. Okay.
It's unbelievable. That's so. I mean, I was thinking about this just yesterday. I mean, what if you were a time traveler from 1965 and you came forward to 2020 and the headlines are all the same? I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Let's check out the NASDAQ here. All right, so we were a little negative here. You can see that we got a little tail here this morning, so we didn't open entirely on fire by any means, but hey, we opened a little lower, and traders said that's unnecessary. We need to buy that up, and so they did, and get the RSI doing the same thing. So we've little retreats haven't even come to the 50 line in the RSI all the while, so you've had every reason to stay with your positions in the Nasdaq here. 20-day has been the most consistent, but the 10-day has kept you in this pretty well also. And we are into that, have filled the gap here from this initial breakdown from our first high, from our last real high. So look to be calling into question there that 98 level as an area of true resistance here, Lee.
Yeah. Crazy.
So I'm not sure what to add here. Let's check the Qs in the NASDAQ 100, which is going to look, of course, but similar, excuse me, but perhaps a little bit stronger, a little closer to tagging that all-time high. So again, I don't think there's anything more to add than just continue to watch, don't fight. Utilize your stops, of course, and stick to them. You know, set some levels here. So a lot of traders would be 100% out if it broke a certain moving average. Some might do 50% or percentages if it breaks the 10-day and then breaks the 20-day. But breaks of the 20-day would be pretty significant given what we've been seeing here of late. So break of the 20-day would actually be a shift in behavior for the broader market here, pretty much across the board, S&P, the NASDAQ. So I think that's where we want to keep a close eye. Now the Russell outperforming again a little bit here today, Lee.
Catching up.
It is.
Looks like a test of the 200-day moving average might be in the cards. We are also filling that gap. So
I think I can lift a couple of these support lines. Hopefully these don't, we'd like it if these don't come back into play. But yeah, this ledge here around the 10-day looks pretty interesting to a lot of short-term traders, I would think, Lee.
yeah. Again,
So,
you gotta honor your stops with
Mhm.
momentum markets. They can go the other way real quick also. But right now, that's why technical analysis can, or at least looking at charts, if you just read the headlines, you wouldn't be invested yet. There you go.
Okay. There's nothing in the papers that would tell you that it's encouraging to be invested right now. Yeah. 200-day, everybody, is at 1481, so you're about 63 points away from here. So act accordingly if you're looking at the Russell. But I do think that the 10-day and the green line there coincident at about 1388, 1390. Pretty good area.
All right.
All right.
Let's look at some of the sectors that we had been. Oh yeah, let's go to the transport.
I was just gonna check the transports real quick.
Yeah.
They're right at resistance. Boy, the market could get a bit of a boost here if the transports took out this ledge.
That's right.
Because we know what needs to happen there.
Yeah, we need the airlines to keep going up.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they doing? What are they doing?
Let's find out. Because if the jets are hot, yeah, see, if we take this out, this ledge, this last peak that we had last week gets taken out, 1660. I expect the transports to break out as well and start to move towards the 200. Now, the jets won't move to the 200 so quickly.
No.
There's a bit of a move there, obviously. That's a 50%er. But the transports breaking out of that little range that they're in there would be pretty significant. Let's take a look at it with the IYT real quick just to see if we can gauge some volume here as well. Again, RSI action, perfectly appropriate for what we've been seeing. On balance volume is up sloping, just maybe not giving us the all clear that we might be looking for.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, that's a little bit discouraging, but
Wouldn't you love it if it was up here? I mean,
yeah,
if this line had just, instead of this little pullback in the OBV as we consolidated, if it just kept climbing, that would give you a little bit more import to believe that what was happening was going to continue. But that said, you can get the IYT here above about 164, things start to look a lot more interesting, I think. So, all right, enough transports, Lee. You wanted to check out some of the specific sectors that we've been ignoring of late. Where did you want to begin?
uh, well, yeah, we haven't looked at energy in a while, and we got a request for that. Let's look at XLE.
Yeah.
Filling that gap. Jeff Kilberg was talking about that too. Let me fill the gap in here.
Yeah, basically, since it got back above it here on May 18, it has held. And then it's worked to fill it.
Yeah, well, so hopefully it'll keep drifting higher. Let's
It
look at
looks
the,
like it once. Yeah.
although the unbalanced volume is not great.
What happened here? Sorry, everybody.
You wanted to show us crude oil, which is up
Yeah.
today. So
Oh, well, all right. Well, there you go. Is that still, what's the front month on that? Is that still M?
I think it's July. CLN.
Yep. Yeah, that looks similar.
Yeah,
Mm.
captured the 36 level there. Let us look at the XOP too. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Do that first, and we'll go back.
Now that's looking interestingly.
Yep, it totally filled the gap, and now that the yeah, move that line up to the top of that gap, which held it. Well, move it down under that red
Oh, you want it
candle.
under the gap? Like
Yeah,
under.
because we've been holding that as support the last few days. Keep going down right there. See that? We've been
Okay.
holding that as support. So that is a key level. Um,
Now that looks real interesting.
yeah. Yeah,
Boy,
so
this thing,
these are
this
the
could shoot too.
exploration companies, yeah. And then okay, go back to the XLE because I think what you might want to follow, Paul, is the 20-day moving average on that one.
All right, let me hide the 10 here.
Yeah, look
Yeah,
at that.
that's why. Yeah, that's far more consistently. Good call out there. More than a few tails. You had a nice breach of it here that got bought up.
Yep.
Little test the next day. Tail here, tail yesterday on it. I agree.
All right, let's look at, we've been following the home builders, and you were talking about Home Depot and Lowe's also.
Well, that looks like a successful test of the 200, Lee.
It does. We've told you about this one for a while.
Yeah, they have been just
On
cruising.
fire.
So here you have the, sometimes we talked about, I know that I often mention the idea of fading that first test of a 200 day. This is a first test. And this is one that you could have faded it all you want, but it didn't work out, did it? I mean, it broke the 200. It had an ugly candle. I mean, this is an ugly candle. This day should have suggested a break of the 200 the next day, Lee,
Yep.
traditionally.
Yeah, it's a bearish engulfing pattern right at
Yeah.
resistance. That's
I would have
usually a
expected
negative
it to
side.
get,
Yeah.
yeah, I would have anticipated it to get thrown back into the gap here on that. And that would have been a good trade, and that would have been an excellent way to look at it and say, awesome, it threw me right back into support. This is where I can add to my position. I can use the 20-day. All of that is moot now. I mean, now you have to look at this line. You have to put this line up higher, and you have to raise your support line. And I think you have to put it right here, basically below the lows of the last week.
Yep.
So this is a far more improving chart. And the OBV is giving you exactly what you were hoping for.
Yep.
Check RSI real quick here. Same thing.
Yeah, look at
You're
that.
not getting anything, divergence of any kind.
Finally got the overbought too. That is a bull market confirmation.
Yep.
Got above 70.
So, all right.
Let's look
What
at
else?
we've been following the the gambling stock, BJK. They broke out. We told you about that. Looks like they're going to the 200.
Mm-hmm.
RSI is getting to overbought. Maybe it'll stall at the 200. Who knows? But all right, let's look at the gold miners.
Okay. Yeah, some time here. Yeah, still holding the most
Hanging in there. The
breakout.
momentum has been kind of squeezed out of this a little bit, but it's still consolidation mode, it looks like.
Real quickly, and this is not easy to spot, Lee. There was a small divergence at that prior high with the RSI, wasn't there?
Yeah, just
Right here, just a smidgen below here. Kind of gave you a little bit of a heads up, but boy, I still think that the most important area is the 31.25 range that broke out, because that was the all-time highs at the point, if I'm not mistaken. So now you've had about a month above it. I say all-time. Look at me. Definitely not all-time highs, Lee.
No.
Broke out and then has held that for about a month. And so you see this nice little test here. That's our interesting test of a short-term weekly moving average. That's the 10-week moving average there. So
Yeah, put up the
holding
silver
into that
miners.
range. Sure thing.
SIL.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's a better chart.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Watch the 20-day moving average is acting like clockwork on this one.
Sure has. Supported it here on the way down, Lee.
Yeah.
It's an uncommon view, isn't it? Where you see this. Yeah, that doesn't happen all that often. That's interesting, though. It flipped the corner and then just boom, right off with the 20-day.
All right, do your sort and see what else is moving.
Sure.
Those are the ones we've been looking at for a while. What else is moving?
Well, we talked about energy. We talked about the transports.
Materials.
We just talked materials individually. So here's the broad view of materials. Seems to be breaking out.
Yeah.
It's still below the long-term trend line. That's that pink line here. If I gave you some time on this, everybody, you can see this was what was doing really well for a long period here was held. Now you can eliminate that trend line because that doesn't seem to have much import at this point.
But we went above the 200. Let's look at for a screen. Let's do material stocks above the 200. See what we get.
Look at that RSI.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like there's some momentum coming back into this one. So let's do that for our screen, Kevin.
We surely haven't looked at materials in a while in that way. Yeah, so let's check it out. All right, here's my bullish groupings. Tech, there's my materials. There it is. It has been a while. All right, so let's review this, everybody. We'll get into our materials sector. Industry and all sub-industries will be included. We know we want them above the 20-day. Do you want also above the 200 now, Lee? You want something that's kind of leading the charge?
Yeah.
You want that in addition to above the 20?
Yeah, just do it with above the 200.
Yeah, because they should all be above the 20 if they're above the 2.
Only 6. Okay.
Okay. 500,000 shares traded, A's and the B's. Stick with the positive technical or kick it out?
No, take that out. See if we get some more. Nope.
No.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's find out what we've got.
We got some questions on the lower dollar. Does it influence materials? Generally speaking, yes, because a lot of them are commodity based. Yes. So because commodities are denominated, a lot of them in dollars. So.
All right. Any second. There we
There
go.
you go.
Now that sounded really prescient. All right. There we are. So, why don't you start at the top, Lee?
Yep.
That's a leader.
That's the leader. You got a nice level to set your trade at the top of those highs. Yep, right there.
Yeah, you would not want to see that get back under the 96 ledge.
No. So that might be your line in the sand, maybe.
It's gonna be
Otherwise, the momentum looks like it's picking up. What's the OBV doing in this one? Could be
just
better,
gonna curl.
but
So
it
it's
is at
following
least,
the most recent move here, at least.
yeah, you'd like to see it higher, but
Let's check it on a weekly real quick and see what it's undergone. It's gone really had a real long had a nice big move and then fixed it. Like a lot of them.
yeah.
But there is some resistance in this area, so
Yeah, let's
I
go
think
back
it's
to
a,
the
I think it's
daily
a
and see where
shorter
that is.
term.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Let's go back to the daily. Look at that weekly resistance area. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right there,
Yeah.
followed by this little blowout peak that it had for a couple of weeks right here. But I think that there's a ledge right here as well at around 102
Yeah.
because that coincides with some prior stuff. So, and
Yeah.
you can see there's a lot. It got there a few times.
Yeah.
So,
So that would be your first place. Maybe if you already have it, you take a little off.
hmm yeah, I would have anticipated something that broke like the way that this did, where it broke out, gave you a nice little consolidation flag, would have held. But of course, this is all coincident with all of our news and Corona. So, maybe this is getting back into that price action where it's going to start bringing those same traders back into the table a little bit.
All right. Sherwin-Williams.
Sure, I've been doing my fair share, Peyton. Lucky me.
Oh, ran to
Hmm.
resistance and pulled back a little bit, but I I think many traders would say the plan on this one would be at this stage, wait for the breakout if you don't have it.
I think I agree with that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
plenty of resistance there, Lee.
So this one you might want to wait for the breakout.
But it's an interesting time frame because I know that this is right exactly for the next 3-4 months is when you'll be seeing a lot of homes being painted. That's for sure.
All right.
All right, Silgan Holdings, Lee. Well, that's a choppy looking chart with an interesting pattern. Maybe a little bit of a triangle here, perhaps. Big blow off top here, though.
Yeah.
Settle down. My lines are getting a little crazy, Lee. Oh, I love
There
this
you go.
range stuff. Let me tell you. All right, there we are. It's drawn in. So
Yeah. So watch the break one way or the other of the triangle. This chart is not as strong as some of the others, though.
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of the RSI. Not a huge fan of the on balance volume. Everything looked great back at the end of April, and then it just kind of broke down from there. So I don't necessarily like what I'm seeing out of this chart. It's a bit more choppy than I would appreciate as a trader.
But if you did want to trade it, just look for the break of those two trend lines one way or another.
Yeah, I think long traders looking at about 34. You get this outside of the upper triangle line there and get above 34 or so. That's pretty interesting. And maybe below 32 and a half.
Yeah, if you break that, you probably test the 50-day moving average real quick.
Yeah, I would think so too. And that's only at 32. But I would think it'd be the 50, given the slope of the 50 here, Lee. The action
Mm-hmm.
has been really favorable on this way back up, and the 50 has been really aggressive in its move. So um, I think I agree with you here. I think the 50 would make the most sense as a short run stopping point, so to speak.
All right, PKG.
Sure thing. Well, I like 2 out of 3 things here, Lee.
Yeah, me too.
I like price action, and I like the RSI. I'm not a big fan of the on balance volume down there. That kind of stands out.
Yeah, it
But
seems if you want to take a shot, you could use a 200 day.
mm-hmm. Maybe you give it a fewer shares and you use the low here of the last week, last Friday's bottom, which was bought up real well. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a big tail there, Lee.
yeah,
So that's one of the things that I look for. And as a short-term trader, do I get a test of a support level that's really aggressively bought up? If I can get it on a volume day, and it turns out that's a volume day. I know it doesn't stand out because it's not green or red. That's a gray day because the open and the close were the same, or rather, the close was the same as the prior day, if I'm not mistaken. So, open and close are the same, 101.41.
yep.
And so gray bar, but notice the size of the bar. It's the same as the day before or slightly more, and more than the day before that. And these were breakout days. So the fact that you got a bunch of buying up on that long tail like that is positive. And so maybe that's the ultimate ditch out. So some traders would say maybe I put a stop for a portion just below the 200 day, and a stop for the remainder below this low of last Friday, perhaps. A couple areas to think about. And then I don't think that the 20 is going to be the most consistent. I think if it's not
No.
the 20, it's the 50. I mean, the 50 clearly looks to me more supporting.
Right. All right, GPK. So this one's fun to watch, see how it behaves around here. You'd have to
Great.
say it's been rejected 4 times at the 200.
Now
But
let's bring in.
now maybe,
Let's check the RSI, which looks
ooh,
strong.
yeah.
On balance volume does not.
Nice.
Yeah, that's one of the. Gosh
Let's
darn it.
see as we are back above the 200 if the volumes
Mm-hmm.
come in intraday. Let's go to the 5-minute chart on this one.
Sure. Because that is really interestingly, if that on balance volume was up at the peak, that'd be exciting. But it's just lagging.
And there's no real volume today either compared.
Nope.
You can see the blue line is below the orange line.
Yeah, a difference of 50% versus the 5-day average here.
Yeah.
But all right, it's very interestingly. So this, if nothing else, tells me maybe I wouldn't speculate in advance of the break.
Right.
But a breakout of 1475, this has got a gap to fill itself.
Yeah, it could really move if it could
Yeah.
take out the high of that one that poked above the 200 and came back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big corrective move here. So the fact that I think what's interesting to me mostly is that it's really held up exceptionally well. This 14.25, having tested the 200 the way that it did, I would have expected an outright rejection to throw it back to into the mid bar here that it got last week. The fact that it's held this level above 14.25 is pretty darn interesting.
Yeah. And with that, Kevin, our time is up. What's coming up next?
Well, up next, what determines an options price? That is with Nina Milivat and Ed Modla. So make sure to stick around for that. I'm back a little later. Be back for a segment with Mike Schmitty. And of course, Lee, you're back a little later. We're charting the market. So as always, a full slate of segments for you all. Check the calendar down below, and we'll see you all in another webcast real soon. Thanks, everybody.